Welcome to another Wheel of Time video. In this video, I, a person who has read the Wheel of Time series multiple times, especially the early books, like definitely the books that this season is covering, I've read at least like 20 some odd times. So whatever. I'm a huge book nerd. I'm going to be breaking down episode 1 of season 3 of the Wheel of Time and all of the things that it made awaken in my book nerdy brain. To that end, I am going to be dropping spoilers literally to the very end of the series. I might even mention things from beyond the end of the series. No, I don't think I do in this episode, or in this breakdown. But yeah, so if you have not finished the entire series, this is not a safe video to watch. I am going to tell you one of the perspective I have often as a book reader watching this show is when something is different from the books, I end up trying to think about why. Like most of the time I don't go, that's different, I don't like it. I go, ooh, that's different. Why did they do that? That's the attitude that I go into the show with. And I do think it definitely colors my opinion about things because it just makes it way more interesting and fun to watch that way. So that is the attitude that I have, and that is the attitude that you're going to hear me talking through in this. So if you have read through the entire series and you are safe for spoilers, let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy. Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy.
Okay, we're going to start here with Galina. That's that red sister on the left there. She has been confirmed to be Galina. Now, people had said that she was confirmed in casting, but she hadn't been named in the episode, and it is possible for people to change like characters' names if they're never named in an episode. You can sort of retcon that. But she is named in future episodes, either 2 or 3. I don't know. Those are the ones I've seen. So, yes. And so all of the people who said that she was probably signaling that she was Black Ajah and signaling her support to Leandrin were right. I mean, it is possible that they don't know about each other. Like, we did get the hearts explained to us. That is from the books. But we did get the hearts explained to us by Amico, as they say in the show, in, again, either episode 2 or 3. I don't remember. So it's possible, but I think it's very likely that at least Galina knows about Leandrin or Leandrin knows about Galina. I don't know. The only reason I didn't buy into it is because I was certain that they were all dead, because they looked dead. But they are not dead, so yeah. So Jane here comes in and immediately knocks out Galina. There she is. Again, I have no idea if they know who each other are, but if she does, that would actually put Galina out of danger and from all of the fighting that's about to happen in the hall, probably save her life. She doesn't kill her. I don't see blood exploding from her head here, and it would also, the other thing it would do is it would provide cover for Galina later on. So yeah, I think, again, this would be a really fun thing for anybody if in future episodes Galina gets exposed, who, goes back and watches to catch it or rewatch and go, ooh, that was clever. That was clever. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every scene from the shredding again because I went through them all. But I'm basically going over ones that give me pause or I have new thoughts about. And this one, clearly new thoughts about because they're not dead. But they look very dead. Like, she's got a blood on her head and they look very dead. But we know at least 2 of them did not die. We see them in the very lush red Ajah quarters in a future episode. It's a little odd for the Black Ajah to leave them alive. So I've been thinking about this, and I thought of 2 possible explanations for why they did that. For one, the first one is killing everybody except for Galina would be suspicious. That would leave Galina open. Like, why did they slaughter everybody else in this hall but leave this one sister alive? It's giving suspicion. The second reason could be Aes Sedai arrogance. The Aes Sedai basically not caring if warders live because warders are barely people to certain types of Aes Sedai. And, but yeah, not wanting to kill a fellow sister. It's a thing in the books that the Black Ajah, while evil, still maintain some of their original Ajah sensibilities, and I think it would also be possible for them to maintain some of their Aes Sedai sensibilities, and some Aes Sedai really do have that level of arrogance of, we are better than the normals. The normals are barely human. We are above them. So the idea of killing an Aes Sedai might be an anathema to them. I don't really have much here to say except, Oh my god. Like, just check. Alanna's gymnastics here. I've slowed it way down because it's incredible. Look at her. Look at Alanna go. Why do I like Alanna so much? I mean, I know why I like Alanna. I mean, you'd see that's Priyanka Bose, and she's Alanna, and she's amazing, and she just did like a front flip at a Black Ajah sister, and it's incredible. So I mentioned in my breakdown of the 11-minute sneak peek, the shredding, that I had a suspicion that in the show, the canon is that Liandrin is head of the Black Ajah. This scene also supports that. You'll note she gets 2 swords through the chest. All the fighting stops. I didn't show the scenes leading up to this, but other Aes Sedai also got stabbed. But this look of horror on their face when Liandrin gets stabbed says to me that she is someone of importance. And it's like, to them. Not, she's obviously of importance to us. Of these Aes Sedai, she is the one that we know. But all the other Black Ajah sisters freeze. Are those Aes Sedai dead? I don't know. I guess the rule in this show is going to be wait and see if we see them again. Like, unless vital body parts are removed, we don't know, because looking dead and looking like a corpse did me dirty in the shredding. I was certain I saw corpses, and then they're fine. And obviously we have healing in this world, so I should have thought of that, but I thought the convention would be like, oh, bloody head means dead. And that's what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing bloody head. I have no idea if they're dead or not. Joya says here, on your knees, mother, and I don't like it. I don't like those words in her mouth. Those words belong to somebody else. Nuh-uh. She also says, you're Liandrin's now. Again, supporting my idea that Liandrin must be head of the Black. So I've often talked about how much I want to know the backstory between Liandrin and Moraine. They very much hinted that there is likely a smoochy backstory between them, and I want to know it. There must be a backstory between her and Alanna too, because Alanna hates her, but Alanna hates Liandrin in a fun way that makes her smirk at Liandrin as she walks in. She kills Ivan here. Everybody else is running away. They've won. They don't need to. This is spite. This is anger. This is, I want to specifically hurt Alanna. She doesn't even aim the sword at Alanna. She aims it at her warder. This is for pain. Maxim says here, I can't feel him. And it's heartbreaking. It's excellent world building. It's an excellent explanation, because when I was watching, my immediate reaction was, hey, Liandrin had 2 swords through her chest. He only had the 1. He should be fine. But this explains why Alanna didn't try to heal him, or at least why she didn't immediately run to him with healing wheeze or yell for a yellow or whatever, because of her bond, she could tell he was already dead. And it also reinforces this idea that is true in the books: you can't heal death. I'm just gonna say, look, that has to be my auntie, right? Like the laughing auntie, because one of the yellows is Chesmo. We saw her. The other yellow was up and around and healing people. So it's not, this has to be my auntie. And I just gonna say, if the reds, if Galina and Sutama and the other red I'm hoping could survive, my auntie's okay, right? She's okay. Please help my emo. Somebody, she better be okay. Matt here is speaking the old tongue unwittingly. Now, in the books, he does this a little bit before the memories that he gets from the Finn. But I think it's smart not to have that in the show. Now, he hasn't gotten these memories from the Finn. He's gotten the memories from the Horn, but he didn't do this before the Horn. Because, quite frankly, having him able to speak the old tongue even just a little bit, and there was even like a hint that Egwene could understand it a little bit, it was always fuzzy magic system wise, but it's really, really cool to see it here. And I find myself wondering how much of the old tongue the show has worked out. Is this like a full language that people can learn, like Klingon or whatever it is from Game of Thrones, or like these languages that people actually can learn and speak? I just thought this was a cool touch here. When Moraine is describing the threat and talking about, like, if you talk to this person, I'll talk to this person, blah, 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 and they report directly to the Red Ajah, Matt is the one who reacts the strongest, or like that's the reaction that they show us. And I like that because it is consistent with the show. It just makes sense. He's the one who was imprisoned by the Red Ajah for a significant amount of time. We're seeing the relationship between Moraine and Rand start to fracture. He's giving her attitude, basically, which to me felt like summarizing the first chunk of the Dragon Reborn, where she's trying to push him in one direction and he says he doesn't want to go. Like it feels like a very good yeah, condensing of a part of the story that I have to say on rereads, I find myself rushing to get through. So I like this. So Rand here, like they're talking about him being the Karakarn. I really thought they were going to say that line about how a Karakarn is not a king. That might come later, but it's just interesting to see this dynamic play out from the books where Rand thinks that the Karakarn means that they'll just obey him instantly, and that is very, very much not the case. So we have confirmation basically through this girl talk conversation that Egwene and Rand are, I guess, still in a relationship, or I guess back in a relationship, which is different from, well, no, it's not really different from the books, kind of. How do we explain? They are kind of together still at the beginning of book 4, but then they break up and he immediately hooks up with Elaine. Immediately. But they've barely been together. Like, even in book 1, when they were kind of boyfriend and girlfriend, they weren't really. Like, I don't even know if they kissed, to be honest. But yes. So, I feel like, though, this is kind of a byproduct of the change in medium. We've got these short seasons of 8 episodes. It would make Rand, I think, unlikable if he were to just flip from woman to woman. Like, I know even last season, my sister got upset with him, seeing him at, like, in the season finale, when he looked up at Elaine and said, "Who are you?" She was like, "Hey, don't, your girlfriend's right there." And I was like, oh yeah, people who watch the show are invested in Rand and Egwene's relationship in a way that I don't know a single book reader who is invested in that. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to handle Rand's relationships, if they're going to go in the direction that they did in the show or not, how they're going to handle them in a way that's going to leave Rand still likable and relatable for the audience. In this girl talk scene too, we are also getting, well, more focus on the trauma that Egwene suffered than we ever really did in the books, and seeing how that trauma would live with her for a while afterwards. Most people who are reading the books acknowledge that Rand has PTSD, especially after Demise Wells and all of that. And, you know, that is often used as an excuse to forgive a lot of his behavior. But those same people will often forget the trauma that Egwene suffered. And to be fair to them, a lot of that trauma happened off page. But, I mean, what she went through was at least equally as traumatic as what Rand went through. And I appreciate that the show is giving Egwene's trauma its own space. The other thing I can't help but notice here, though, is that Egwene is talking about her trauma with her friends. This is a difference in the books between the men and the women. The difference is that often the women are together. Like, Nynaeve is with Elaine most of the time, and Egwene is with, like, Aviendha and the Wise Ones, or then she's with Swan and the Aes Sedai. Like, she's with people who she knows and trusts. And they are her friends. They are not people that she is romantically involved with. She is with her friends. The men are typically off and alone and separate. And the only people that they have that they can trust are the women in their lives. So they have no friends that they can go to that are not tangled up in romance. And it's not that you shouldn't be able to trust the people that you are romantic with. It's just that their support structure is so singular. It's like it's one thing. Rand has multiple, I guess, because he's got 3, but I mean, he really only uses the one. So anyway, I just, it's an interesting thing in the books that the men, the way that they deal with their trauma is often not as healthy as the way the women deal with it, because the women in the books have usually their friends around them and the men don't. Big difference from the books. Matt does not want people in the books to know that he did this. He doesn't want people to think of him as a hero, and here he's bragging. This is one of the weird things to me because, like, for me, I should say, because it is different from the books, and yet it feels true to the books. Like, it feels true to Matt's personality, while at the same time I look at this and go, this is very different. So it's a weird break in canon, which somehow feels consistent with canon. I don't know how to explain it. This drawing looks pretty much exactly how I imagined that scene from the books. And also, weirdly, it's how I imagine the drawings. Like, in the books, they talk about people having sketched it and those sketches being sold across Randland. And I know, I love it, because it's not exactly what happened in the show. Like, he was not floating in the sky there fighting Shamael, whatever. But it's very much a nod to the books, where the fighting literally happens in the sky, and of course it has a dragon in it, which is, it's awesome, but the dragon was not a part of the books. But the dragon banner was a part of the books. So yeah, I don't know. I just love it because it makes me happy. This is like, if you'd asked me what it looked like, the sky battle, this is what I would have described. I just love seeing these three boys happy together. I know we're not going to get too much of it if the story, follows the books. They don't get to spend a lot of time together, which is what I was saying before. But just seeing them being friends with each other, it makes my heart warm. Okay, so what I was saying before, in the books, the boys don't really talk to each other about their trauma. This here, he speaks the old tongue again, and then he's like, oh, did I do it again? And everybody says, yeah. And he moves. He doesn't like to talk about this in the books. He kind of, it happens, but he doesn't want people to know that his memories are confused. I don't know that does he ever explain it to anybody? Like, I know people figure it out, but he never really tells somebody about it. So this is already a healthier response than we got in the books from him. Varen, just Varen. Like, I know, knowing what I know about what she knows and who she is from later on in the books, everything she says here is suspect. Did she know about Naomi? Did she actually trust her? Is this the beginning of her journey into becoming who she is? Or is this part of hiding who she is? I don't know. It's amazing. I can't help but note, based on conversations about costumes that I've had with Pez, look at her. She's wearing her brown vestments with a black jacket. We got Snakes and Foxes, a Snakes and Foxes game. Now, interestingly, this is obviously a huge nod to the books, right? But it's also, weirdly, a deviation from the books, because Snakes and Foxes in the books is a game played only by children. It's like Chutes and Ladders. It's a game that adults don't really enjoy because it's basically unwinnable. It's just a game you play for the enjoyment of the game, but you can't really win it. So, hilariously, the nod to the books made me super excited, but then my book reader brain went, hey, wait a minute, they're not children, so why are they playing this game? But I'm not complaining about it, because nobody else would notice this who's not a book reader. It just struck me as funny that that's what happened in my brain. I love it. I love seeing this. It's great. This is probably the biggest change, in the show, entirely. It's not just in this season, but in this entire show. Moraine is working with Lanfear, and it kind of makes sense to me, given for the adaptation, given how much they've mirrored Moraine and Lanfear, in everything, in their relationship with Rand, in their wardrobe, in the way they walk and move. They've done a lot of mirroring of them, and I think that makes sense given where their story goes. If they go the way of the books, what ends up happening with both of these characters, having them be allies, uneasy allies, granted, but allies turned antagonists, turned enemies. That's a compelling story. One of them betrays the other, and I think we can guess who betrays who. So that's a compelling story. I like it. It also makes a lot of sense for Lanfear, given that her main motivation is to position Rand in power so she can rule beside him. That's what she wants. She wants Rand up here so she can be beside him, probably wants to be a little above him, but she wants to be with him in the end. So it makes sense that, Moraine supporting him, I was a gangster, but hey, if we're working towards the same goal, she's being pragmatic. That makes sense. It's such a big change, and I'm fascinated by it. I can't wait to see what they do with it in upcoming episodes. I also can't help but wonder if Moraine is keeping this a secret from Swan. I imagine she is. Lanfear calls Ishamael Ishi again, and you know that we love that in this fandom, because that's what we all call him. She also calls him a gentle soul, and it builds out their relationship. You definitely get the feeling that Lanfear and Ishamael were friends, really sincerely friends at one point in time, but Lanfear she's ultimately selfish. This is why no one can trust her. She is always going to go for her own goals, even against the Dark One. Look at this. Look at this. Tell me this isn't, look at Moraine's face here. Tell me that isn't a scared but horny look. That's totally what that is, right? That's what I would be feeling in this moment. I'd be, okay, I'm terrified. I think you might kill me, but also, maybe while your face is right there, maybe we could kiss? And while I'm talking about the scared but horny, okay, the chemistry between Lanfear and Moraine is is intense. It's amazing. It's also fascinating to see Lanfear call out Moraine's single-mindedness, how she will do anything to achieve her goal. It's actually something that they have in common, and I hadn't really thought about it until this moment in this episode. Even in the books, they are both really single-minded. They have a goal, and they are both doing whatever they need to get there. Lanfear, even more than Moraine in some ways, because she literally defies the Dark One in order to try and achieve her goal. Just like I liked seeing the boys being happy and friendly and carefree, just seeing these girls laugh and smile with each other is a delight. I also really like that because the show has decided to go with shipping... Sorry, the show is not shipping them. The show made them a couple. It's built a ship. I don't know what to call it. The show has put them together. Aviendha and Elaine are in a relationship, or at least they have something. They got something going on. They've done it before Aviendha and Rand. If they go with Aviendha and Rand as a relationship, which I imagine they will in the future, but having Elaine and Aviendha have their dalliance, have their thing happen first, I hope, will give it some prominence in people's minds. Because I've talked about this a lot. One of the reasons I never really shipped them in the books is because of the fact that I know, especially, sorry, straight man, but I know how a lot of you think. It's like, oh, yes, if my girl sleeps with another girl, that's not cheating, it's sexy and hot. Like, it's creepy. And I say this I've literally had straight men offer me and ask me to sleep with their female partners. Not because, and they like, oh, I just want to know what happened because it's hot. And it's creepy and gross. It's gross. It makes, like, I'm not a lesbian for you, men. Like, I'm a lesbian for me. And because ladies are hot and cute and lovely and I want to kiss them. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But I think that if Elaine and Aviendha were in a relationship in the books, it would just be like, oh yes, that's just another hot thing that Rand gets. He gets 3 hot women and 2 of them kiss, and that's also hot for him. Like, it's... Anyway, so I'm hoping that because the show has been much more effective in portraying romance and romantic relationships, that having this be first, if Aviendha and Elaine, or Aviendha and Rand get together, that it will have some prominence in people's minds and not be seen as something that just adds to the hotness for the dude. I realize, incidentally, I'm talking about Aviendha and Elaine over this scene. That's because Nynaeve and Egwene are teasing Elaine about Aviendha here. And I love the casual tone of this. Nobody questions it. And this is in keeping with what Robert Jordan said. It's not in keeping with what Robert Jordan wrote into the books, but it's in keeping with what Robert Jordan said about the world of the books. In an interview or like a book signing or something, somebody asked him about gay relationships in the books, and I can't remember the exact words he used, but he said, it's just accepted in the world and nobody cared. And that's the feeling that this scene gives me, and I feel like this is how he would have addressed it if he'd actually addressed it instead of fetishizing it, if that makes sense. Swan here talking with Egwene and Nynaeve, trying to convince them to come back to the tower. A lot of what Swan does here, and in like upcoming episodes, I find her very deft in the way she chooses to talk to people. She knows the words to use, she knows the tone to use in the different contexts to talk to people. The turn of phrase she uses here to describe what happens to Rand, a cruel turn of the wheel. I just thought it was an excellent way to word it to make Egwene see her point of view, is that I know you care about Rand. I know you do. It's not his fault. We know that this is cruel. We know that this is this is just the hand that we've been dealt, and we will need you to deal with it. And even that, like appealing to her, we will be glad to have you by our side. The tower needs your support. Now, Egwene kind of throws this in her face a bit, but I just think that this was the way to do it. If she just come and said, hey, come back to the tower, the way she does kind of with Elaine, that worked with Elaine. It was not going to work with Egwene. Okay, so I'm going to end up talking about this a lot. Like, this won't be the only time I mention this. But here, they keep talking about how they need the ring, or sorry, Egwene doesn't have the ring, but Nynaeve says here, it's fine, I have the ring, so it's cool, we don't need it. Except the rings they have are only accepted rings. And this is a difference between the books and the show. In the books, the Aes Sedai ring and the accepted ring, sorry, I'm looking at my ring, I'm realizing my avatar doesn't have any rings. The Aes Sedai ring is the exact same as the accepted ring. The only difference is the finger you wear it on. The accepted have to wear it on a specific finger, and the Aes Sedai can wear it on whatever finger they want. So if you are an accepted and you want to pretend to be an Aes Sedai, you could just move the ring to any finger, or just tell people, because anybody outside of the tower was not going to know. But in the show, there is a very, very visible difference between the ring of an accepted and the ring of an Aes Sedai. The ring of an accepted does not have a stone in it, and it's a big honking stone, whereas the ring of an Aes Sedai has the colored stone of their Ajah. So they look really different. And I'm just curious as to what they think the accepted ring, like what access that will give them. Based on something Egwene says later, I'm assuming, I guess, having the accepted ring gives you the freedom to come and go, which is, again, a difference from the books. In the books, the accepted, I think they teach novices, they can boss novices around, they can pick their classes, I think, but I don't think they have this much freedom. So this is a change in canon, which is fine. I keep going, what? But you're not even an Aes Sedai yet. Like, what does this ring give you? It's such a visible difference. I don't know what authority having an accepted ring offers them. Alviarin, that is Alviarin. It is confirmed. A lot of us wondered because she was a white sister here. She is present at Egwene's testing. Nynaeve had Sheriam and Leandrin present at her testing. They do not have good luck with having people present at their testings, I'm just going to say. Swan being present here is book canon. Swan isn't present when it starts, but she's definitely there by the end. Although there is no dream ring, so there's none of that chaos that happens here. But I couldn't help but notice both of them. Both are girls whose testings we see. I wonder who is at Elaine's testing. I don't think we'll ever find out. I know the show has to make economical choices. I know we can't see every scene, but my goodness, I would have loved to have seen the conversation between Nynaeve and Lan where she told him about what happened to her in the Arches. It would have been a long scene. Like, there's no way for her to have had that to have been a quick conversation. Hey, by the way, when I was in my Arches, we were married and had a kid, and then you died. That's it. No more work. Like, no, that would have been a hefty conversation. So, and I don't think there's any way to have condensed it, but I wish we could have seen it. Is this just an Easter egg for us? Elaine sends 2 letters. She's sending them to 2 different people, but come on. Come on. They had to have done this as a joke. They know the books. 2 letters. Elaine. Did you laugh? You should have laughed. As part of their flirtation, Aviendha has been teaching Elaine hand talk. He's so cute. I love it. Loial, being the person who helps Rand study the prophecies, it's perfect. I don't know why. I never thought of this. I never would have thought of this, but if he's there, it absolutely makes perfect sense that he is who Rand would turn to in this. I love it. It's great. I talked about this a lot in my reaction, but I absolutely love that they are showing us some of Elaine instructing Rand in leadership. They also showed her having a bit of a conversation with Aviendha about Rand and how he is in a leadership role. In the books, this does happen, but most of it happens off screen. What we see on screen is her and Rand kissing in corners. We don't see the conversations that they have, so I don't think a lot of book readers give Elaine a lot of credit. Like, even later on when we get to see some of her political savviness, it does get dismissed. But Rand thinks about her and how she gave him advice. It's just, as I said before, the books told, they didn't show. And the show is showing, not telling. And I like that. Again, I talked about this in my reaction, but I love the idea of it being Elaine that advised him to go to the waste. I know that there are people, cough, cough, book cloaks, cough, 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 who are probably going to get really upset about this because they will feel that it is taking credit away from Rand. Because in the books, it's heavily implied that he just figured this out on his own. Now, he talks about advice that Elaine gives him, but this particular thing, it's heavily implied that he just read a bunch of books and put this together on his own. But I don't think it takes nearly as much credit away from him as some people might infer, because, like, what you're seeing in these scenes is that, like, on one side, he's being pulled by Moraine and Lanfear, people who know a lot more than him about things. And on the other side, he's being advised by Elaine, and he is able to sift through all of the information that he's gotten, and he chooses the right way. I think, additionally, this is just the only way you really could do it in an adaptation. I mean, I don't mean that Elaine is the only way that you could do it, but he needs to hear it. He can't just read about it or make the decision out of nowhere. That feels a little too, I don't know, it feels too simplistic. We need to see some of the reasoning that is involved. And the easiest way to have him do that is to see him having conversations. Okay, this was just something I noticed on a rewatch. Elaine here, she says that Andor will always be a friend to the Dragon Reborn. And then she says, of course, and so will I. The next scene, the very next scene, is Egwene's test. Like, we go into it, Egwene's test. Rand here is yelling, bow to me. We've got Egwene about to, do something. And that's Elaine, presumably the Queen of Andor, about to still Rand. Just very cool editing moment. I went back and checked. In the trailer, look at this. He has blood all over his face. That blood isn't on his face in the trailer. So, yeah, it's just interesting to me. I guess they didn't want us to be sure that this was a bad, like a crazy version of Rand, because the blood would definitely have given that away. Although, even without the blood, I think most of us guessed this, but yeah. Much like I talked about with that other scene at the beginning, this also feels like just a nod to, or like a condensing of that part of the beginning of The Dragon Reborn, and also of The Shadow Rising, where Moraine and Rand are a little bit at each other's throats. Like, they are trying to go in different directions. She's trying to pull him one way, he's trying to go his own way. So I just like that. That dynamic I find actually very frustrating to read about. Just having to, seeing it in brief like this is, okay, cool. We've dealt with it. It's there. And I don't mean that, like, this will be it and they'll be friendly and fine later on. It's just, we aren't harping on it for chapters and chapters and chapters. The other thing to note here is this appears to be a change in canon. They say that Lews Therin was the one to put the Calendor in the Heart of Stone. That's not the case in the book. A bunch of Aes Sedai, well, actually, we never see anybody put it in there, but Aes Sedai have it. I don't think the dragon is alive when they have it, but I don't think it's done by Lews Therin, and he's saying only the dragon can pull it out. That is true, although Moraine implies that any male channeler could do it. So if the male Forsaken gets there first, then a male Forsaken could do it. I don't know. Like, one of the things that I think the show is being consistent with the books is that people don't necessarily know. Like, when I say consistent with, every single book begins with legends fade to myth, myth fades to whatever order it goes in. It's talking about basically the decaying of knowledge. So this, they say, isn't necessarily a change in canon. It could be a change in canon. It's a change in canon that's fine. Like, whoever put the stone, or the Calendor in the stone, it doesn't really matter who did it. It just matters that he gets it. But it also could not be a change in canon, because knowledge has been lost over 3,000 years. I'm still not entirely sure what the accepted ring provides for them. Like, what rights does it give them? I think this is just a byproduct of my having read the books and knowing what an accepted is. I'm just going to be very curious to see what non-book readers make of this, if they make anything of it at all, because I just happen to know what an accepted ring gives you. You can pick your classes, you can boss the novices around. It doesn't mean you are accepted as an Aes Sedai. You are an accepted of the White Tower. You are below the Aes Sedai, and in the books, it doesn't mean that you could just, like, leave Tar Valon at your will and at your leisure. It's, this is a change from the books, I know, and I'm fine with it. It's going to be very weird to say. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage sometimes, having read the books, because I'm getting stuck on something that I think the part of my brain that is logical and an adult knows that this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. people who haven't read the books are probably going to go, oh yeah, no, she's got the ring. We've seen people walk around with the ring. Amelisa had a ring and she was over there, and the queen has a ring and she's over there. So it's fine. They're fine. Whereas, like, because I've read the books, I'm like, no, because Amelisa was just accepted and she probably was put out of the tower, and Queen Morghese, her ring is just honorary, and so, like, I'm at a disadvantage. So it's weird. Lan here is talking about how his sword is power-wrought, created with one power itself. Not really. I mean, if it's power-wrought like in the books, the one power was used in its creation, but it's not made of the one power. But yes, and then he says it's like the sword that Rand used to kill Ashamael. So I think the implication here is that power-wrought weapons can be used to kill Forsaken. This is different. That is not book canon at all. The canon of the show can obviously be different, and well, it obviously is different. For example, the Forsaken are immortal, which begs the question, is Ashamael dead? We know he's not. He's on the poster, so I know he's not. But this, I don't know. Like, I love that I don't know, but I'm very curious about this. Is this an actual change to canon? Are they saying that power-wrought weapons are a danger to the Forsaken in a way that regular weapons aren't? Or is this just the characters in the show trying to piece together clues and coming up with the wrong answer? Maiden's Kiss! I can't believe we got Maiden's Kiss. From that scene we saw in that initial Matt teaser, I assumed that this was just going to be a scene for those of us who are fans of the books that we could point to, like Leo pointing me and go, I know what they're alluding to here. And it looks like Maiden's Kiss, but it wasn't going to be Maiden's Kiss, and that was just going to be fun for us. But then it actually is Maiden's Kiss. So, I also couldn't help but notice they offer him to play an Aiel game. Perrin immediately goes, no. Has Perrin played Maiden's Kiss? They've been together for a month. I am on record as saying that in the books, I do not ship Aviendha and Elaine, which I know shocks everyone being the big old lesbian that I am. But I don't, for many reasons, and I'm not gonna go through all of them here, but I think the show is treating them better than I think it would have been done in the books. Partially because Robert Jordan's romances, just in general, were less than ideal. And definitely the way he wrote any gay relationships or interactions at all was lacking in the extreme. So while I personally did not ship Aviendha and Elaine in the books, I definitely do see where people who do ship them get it. They have a lot of chemistry. A lot more chemistry, incidentally, than a lot of the actual canon romances do. Like, I don't know, Gareth Bryn and Swan. That one just, it's bad taste in my mouth, that whole thing. And they definitely have a better friendship than a vast majority of the romantic characters. Like, the romantic relationships, often we don't see a lot of the friendship between them. So, yeah, I don't think that this breaks canon, to be honest. And unlike in the books where I feel like it would have left me frustrated and would have been more male gazy and fetishy, in the show it feels okay and it makes sense. And to be honest, I'm not as excited about it as I know a lot of my friends will be, just because there's if you want the gay relationship that I'm emotionally invested in is Swan and Moraine. I want them forever. I want that ship to sail off into the sunset with everybody on it smooching each other and happy. That's what I want for that relationship. I don't know if that's what we're gonna get, but that's what I want. So this one I like. I'm not like giddy about it. I know that plenty of people will be, but it works for me. And yeah, that's where I'm at. Ew. That's just all I have to say. His wound. It looks appropriately. Ew. Okay. I swear I'm going to let this go, but Rand here looks at Egwene's ring and says, Egwene Aes Sedai. And I was like, no, she's not. She's not an Aes Sedai. She's an accepted of the White Tower. Okay. Look, I bet you nobody who has not read the books is going to notice this. But as a book reader, this is one of those things I'm getting hung up on. And I know it's stupid. I'm getting distracted from the story. I'm getting distracted from the rest of what's going on because it's different. And she's just an accepted. She's not a full sister. And she's not an Aes Sedai yet. This could be, incidentally, Rand just joking, or Rand getting it wrong because he doesn't know about the Aes Sedai and she's not corrected him because why would she? This is not the time or the place. It's just, I'm sorry. I will try to stop talking about it now. Another thing that happens right after this, Rand asks Egwene what it was like in the Arches, and she can't tell him, which reminded me of episode 1, like the very, very first episode of the show, the Women's Circle test. He asks her what it was like, and she can't tell him, and he asks her, can you tell me if it was good or bad? And basically it's the same scene, but this time it's about the accepted test. And like those of us who've read the books know that a lot of things that were involved in the Women's Circle test remind us or like evoked feelings of the Aes Sedai, like even like trust the river and surrender to the river, much like how you're supposed to surrender to embrace the one power, whatever. Even like that deleted scene that a lot of us have seen, the one where they poured the 7 colors onto Egwene, those were the 7 Ajah colors. Even the secrecy of the Women's Circle traditions evokes things about the White Tower. So I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. I did not notice this at all my first time watching, because obviously I was doing a reaction, and one of the things with reacting, you have to be talking, and sometimes you talk over things, and that's just, it's a byproduct of the medium, and people get real upset about it, but I don't know how else you're supposed to do a reaction. So anyway, but I noticed on a rewatch, there's something here in the sound that is not exactly a rooster crowing, but evokes a rooster crowing, and that's what happens in the books. The cock crows 3 times. It's that whole, was it Peter betraying Jesus 3 times from the Bible? It's the, before the cock crows, whatever. Anyway, it's a whole thing. That's a lot of times that I've said the word cock just now. Anyway, however, that's what happens before the bubbles of evil in the books. So we get an allusion to that in the sound design here, which I thought was really, really cool. Of course, this isn't a bubble of evil. It's the working of a Forsaken. So I guess they couldn't really use the rooster crow at that point, because why would Lanfear make a rooster crow? That would be weird. But I just thought that was a really cool nod to the books. It looks like Matt is not as good a kisser as he is in the books. So Matt is talking about his memories like running around in his head, and he can't seem to control them. The show has done something different with his memories here. Obviously, like the fact that he seems to have gotten memories from the Horn. I don't think he's going to get additional memories from the Fin, but I keep trying to do it. I keep trying to do the formula in my head of what he could say to the Fin that will result in whatever he gets from them. Like, he's going to get the Foxhead Medallion. Again, seen that in his posters. I like the poster from Tanchico, and in the group poster I saw his Foxhead Medallion. So I'm assuming he's going to get some other things from them. I don't know what he will get from them that will help here. But I love that he's actually talking to Nynaeve about this. Weirdly, it's going to be such a weird thing to say. I find it kind of healing, because in the books he's so antagonistic towards her, like right from the beginning, that this felt like a salve to my soul, my Nynaeve loving soul. Matt asks Nynaeve if she will help, and look at her, like it's an immediate yes. And I got teary, because I'm probably going to get teary talking about it again, because that passage always makes me cry. It reminded me of that passage from like the very end of the series about a woman who refuses to believe that, refuses to believe that she cannot help. Probably paraphrasing, I don't know. I'm not quoting it exactly, but it makes me cry, because it's such the essence of who Nynaeve is, and it's one of the things I love about her. And I love just seeing this evidence of her. She said she doesn't even know how she's going to help, but she will. And that's Nynaeve. That's who she is at her core. Okay, this is something I didn't even notice while watching. I didn't even notice when I was rewatching to take notes. I noticed while I was getting the clips for this video, just because I happened to pause the video at a specific time and went, ah! Okay, do you see what I'm seeing? Do you see? Look at these cards. That's Amarusu. Okay, she's a female champion of the light. She was in the Heroes of the Horn. She was in the Heroes of the Horn, and she's the female champion of the light in Turning to the Wheel that need a female champion. That's Arta Hawkwing. That's Brigida. And then the thing that actually made me squeak is, like, I think I picked up these two, but I don't know, it wasn't that exciting. This. That's Uno! It's Uno! I mean, it's Gai'don, but it's Uno! Hey, you know what occurred to me on my rewatch, and I can't believe I didn't put this together? But one of the interesting things about that one change from season 1 that a lot of us don't like, the one with Perrin and Layla and the fridging and the axing and whatever, making him kill his wife with an axe by accident, I know, but whatever, he killed his wife with an axe, makes the bubble of evil that goes after Perrin so much worse. Like, this is scary. It's really scary. An axe going after him, and like what we'll see the axe does to his wedding ring later, like, that is, this is traumatic. This is traumatic. So the initial other, like, doppelganger Rands here don't have knives. And Rand picks up a knife, and then the knives, the Rands that come out of the mirror have knives. And that's really cool. That's what happens in the books. He picks up the sword, and then, well, actually, they don't come out now having swords. They just have swords in their hand, I believe. But it's just really cool. That is a very cool nod to the books. And also, though, it's horrible because that's what results in them stabbing Egwene. It is worth noting that these other doppelganger Rands are going specifically after Egwene. Like, that, she woke up with one of them on top of her. Knowing that Lanfear is the one who did this, that makes a lot of sense. This confused the fuck out of me when I was watching. Like, why are they just here? You can hear the screaming, and at some point in my brain I was like, are they in a different place? I don't understand why they're not helping. It took, I don't know, when, did I ever put it together? I don't know. I obviously put it together later on when they met up with Lanfear, but I don't know if I put it together while it was happening, that they were, like, in on it with Lanfear. Like, they knew what was about to happen and they were just sitting it out. I do like that we see Lan is having trouble with it. Moraine, I mean, she is tense. She's got a little bit of tension in her shoulders there, but she seems to be dealing with this much better than Lan is. This is causing him a lot of stress. Given what I said about the axe being like the source of his trauma, what the axe then here does to his wedding ring. This card, one of these bubbles of evil, I'm going to keep calling it that even though it's not what it is in the show, is probably the one that's the most different because they don't crawl out of the cards and they don't seem to attack him. It's also the one, incidentally, that I knew we were going to get the mirrors because we were, like, shown that in the trailer. But if you'd asked me before the trailer if we were going to get any of them, the one I probably would have said, hey, that we might have gotten the axe one, we might have gotten that one with Rand. Because the axe is the easiest one. It's the easiest one to do. And it's the easiest one to portray and to get the terror of. But they gave us all three. This one is the weirdest of the three. It's two-dimensional creatures crawling out and attacking people. I don't know. I like what we got, and I like that we got it, but I'm still not entirely sure what it is. Like, I'm interested because they paired it with the gray men, but also, like, you see there's blood there, but he's not bleeding. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what this is. Like, is it just a hallucination for Matt and Matt alone? Was it just meant to be a weird thing that he saw? I don't get what this is. I should also say, part of, I think, my confusion is that this was being paired with the Grey Man attack, right? So I was, like, trying to process this and the Grey Man attack at the same time, and my brain wasn't able to work. I think, sorry, I'm going to keep talking about this because I'm trying to talk this through. I would be very interested to know your thoughts on this in the comments. But I think part of what the reasoning I went through, like, while watching it and while trying to process it was, oh, maybe were the cards there to hypnotize Matt so that he wouldn't go and help Nynaeve? But then Lanfear did not know what happened to Nynaeve, and I don't think she was lying about that. I think that she was sincere. So I don't know, because, like, the axe clearly attacked Perrin, and the mirrors, well, they weren't attacking Rand, but they were attacking Egwene, sorry, which was, like, is to be an attack on Rand. So, yeah, that makes sense. But the cards hypnotizing Matt in this way, I don't know what this would do. I don't know. Okay, another thing I did not catch, because especially this show in particular, the first time I watch it, I generally don't watch with subtitles, just because I don't, like, I watch a lot of shows with subtitles, but I often find what happens is I end up staring at the subtitles and not necessarily looking at the pictures. So, like, the moving pictures, the actual show. So I don't want that to happen with this show. So I generally don't watch it the first time with subtitles. So I did not catch that, like, I heard Nynaeve yelling Matt, Matt, Matt over and over again. I did not notice that one time she yelled Lan. And then Lan came running. So when I watched it the second time with subtitles, I was like, oh, she yelled Lan. That's why he suddenly started running towards her. I think that would have helped me figure out earlier what was going on with Moraine and Lan, but I don't know. But okay, the other thought I started having on my rewatch, because we know that gray men in the show are different. They are, first of all, made by a Forsaken, very different. And I mean, that alone, that's a big difference. The other difference that I'm wondering about is, do they have an extra power? Because gray men in the books, basically you don't notice them. You look right at them and your brain just doesn't notice them. That's actually an interesting thing, because there are some brain anomalies, brain disorders you can have, like, where you can be unaware of anything that happens on your left side. Like, it's not that your brain doesn't see it. Your brain sees it, and then it goes into your brain, and your brain just doesn't process it. That's a thing that can happen. So, like, that's how in my brain, I interpret what happens with the gray men. You see them, but your brain refuses to process them. Something about them makes that happen. Here, though, in the books, once the gray men start attacking, like, once you're being stopped, people will recognize that there's an attack happening. They will hear the noises, and they will try and engage in the fight, even if they can't see what they're fighting. They will hear that that's happening. Matt doesn't recognize that a fight is happening. Nynaeve is yelling his name over and over and over again. And we'll watch what happens here. He stabs him, and Matt appears to come out of a trance as the gray man dies. So I'm wondering if part of the gray man's power in the show is going to be to make, like, anybody around them unaware of the violence that is happening in their midst. That would be a cool addition to the power, because then they don't have to be subtle. They can be really, like, this was creepy. This was super creepy. Something horribly violent was happening, and Matt didn't notice. Like, that could be happening. Imagine that happening in a crowded room. Somebody's being killed in the middle, and the people around them are oblivious. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but I think it would be a cool addition to their powers. Probably the millionth time I'm going to say this, but I just love the addition of the colors to the weaves, because just look at that. Like, that's air, water, and spirit. And I know that. And those are the healing weaves, and that's what they are. And they're consistent. And it's a consistent color that we are seeing every time healing is used. Like, we'll see it in a couple of the, like, with Matt in when he's with the yellows there. We're going to see these specific colors. And I think that that's going to be neat when Nynaeve starts healing and uses more colors. The other thing we see here, of course, is Lan's rage. He did not expect his girl to get hurt in this, and he was held back. He's mad, and he's not just mad at Lanfear, he's mad at Moraine. I made myself real small, because I don't really have much to say. Just look at this. Look at this. Look at Tarvalon. Like, look at the bridges going over the... Oh, it's just everything. I don't... Look at this gorgeous city. Look at these establishing shots. It's... I just want to eat it. It's so good. It's so good. So I called this clip on my computer, like when I was saving this clip, I called it Team More Fear. Moraine Lanfear. Team More Fear. This is when it's revealed how tightly she is working with Lanfear. And, like, I know Lanfear, having done the Bubble of Evil, is a huge change from the books. I love this change. I really do. Bubbles of Evil are, quite frankly, really, really, really mushy magic. They are, if you don't know, if you're watching this for no reason, even though I told you not to, because spoilers, whatever, they are just literally, the Dark One is there, and then it's a miasma, and Bubbles of Evil come, and they just make weird shit happen. And it gets attracted towards Perrin. It's just weird shit. It's just weird shit that happens. That's it. The thought I realized, something I realized when I was thinking about this as a change for the show, something I'd never thought about. Bubble of Evil probably sounds stupid. Like, I imagine a scene in the writer's room where, like, the book fans, the people who read the books, were like, oh, we're got to show these bubbles of evil. And the non-book readers that they have there were like, the what? The what the fuck are you talking about? Bubble of evil? What? Because that's dumb. It probably sounds stupid. It's like Tate, in a way. So, yeah. The other reason, though, I really like this is it is upping the villains. It's it makes the villains so much more powerful. That Brand in the books, and they all in the books think that it's Forsaken that attacked them. And it's actually, I think Moraine says, no, a Forsaken would be able to do this. They're not. In the show, the Forsaken are able to do this. The Forsaken are immortal. We saw Lanfear come back to life. And they can do this weird, weird fucking shit. And it makes them so much scarier. It is, I'm going to say something really, really weird here. It's a testament to Robert Jordan's writing, how even though after a certain point, the Forsaken stop being scary to me. Like, they stop being scary for a while, and then Summerog does something really, really fucking scary. I'm like, okay, fine, they can actually hurt us. And then, like, I forget about them again. Even with the Forsaken, like, the ultimate bads basically being nerfed by constantly being beaten over and over and over again. The fact that I still care what happens in the story is a testament to his writing. But the show, I don't think, is, like, relying on that. They are upping the power of the villains. They're making them so much more compelling. And I don't mean that the show is weaker in that. It's just strengthening the villains strengthens the whole story. Good villains make for good story. Robert Jordan had an excellent story, and he's very lucky what an excellent story he had, because his villains, after a while, they just started to be like, sure, like, we'll balefire another Forsaken, I don't care, it's fine, Randall just balefire them and we can move on with our lives. That's how I started to feel. The show doesn't feel like that yet. Maybe it will later, but right as of now, these motherfuckers are scary. Once again, we see the thing that we saw at the end of very last season. The one thing that seems to scare Lanfear is Megiddo. Like, I think that's sincere fear on her face. Nynaeve is being vulnerable here in a way that she just isn't in the book. She's basically putting her weakness, her inability to channel, out there. I think, again, this is just a result of a change in medium. I know some people are upset that she doesn't appear to be as angry in the show as she does in the books. But in the books, I do feel, personally, the way I read her is her anger is a lot of times a mask. It's a mask for her insecurity. And you only know that if you're able to read in between the lines of the stuff that she thinks to herself, which, again, much like Matt, she lies to herself too, and what she does on the outside. In between those two things, I think, is the truth of a lot of what Nynaeve is thinking and feeling. The show can't rely on us to do that, because we can't see her internal thoughts. We can only see what she does externally, and we definitely can't then infer things between her internal thoughts and what she does externally. So they have to externalize all of it. And I feel like this is just a good way of doing it. But it does make, I get why people are missing that part of her, because that's part of her, almost her charm. It's definitely part of her humor. Her anger is definitely a part of what makes her a funny character. But that her anger is not the thing that I identify with and love about her. It's not the part that makes me root for her. Whereas this vulnerability that I see in her is what makes me be Team Nynaeve from the get-go. Like, so yeah, I'm okay with this. All of the theories that we had about why Matt was going with Nynaeve to Tanchico, did anybody have this as a theory? I don't think anybody did. Nobody had it in my comments. Yeah, it's a good enough reason, I suppose. I like this as a reason because I like him trusting her. That, as I said, it almost feels healing to me. It comforts the part of me that is frustrated with him in the books for being so antagonistic towards her constantly. So, yeah. And Perrin's just going home because he's going home, because he misses home. All of the theories. This was not one that I even heard or read. And it makes sense, I guess. He misses home. Go. This is also a change from the books. In the books, Egwene is going to the Waste specifically to learn about dreamwalking. That's why she's going there. She's not accidentally, she's been playing around with the dream ring that was given to her by Varen, and then has met with a wise one in the dream world, I believe Amis, not Bear, but yeah. And then she goes to the Waste in order to learn dreamwalking. So it's for her own. She has broken up with Rand. Whereas in the show, she is going with him. She's going there to support him. And yeah, and like that determination on her face. Sorry, I just love that. I just let them try. That is Egwene. Oh, she is steel, man. She is steel. Another one. Did anyone guess this? That Bane and Chiad were going with Loial, not with Perrin. Did anybody guess that? I don't think anybody did. I really don't. I think, like, I was obviously, she's going with Gaul. I think the dominant theory was that they were taking over Avienda's toe to Perrin. But no, they have toe to Loial. Wrong. All of us, wrong. A small change, which I don't know if I noticed the first time because I was just caught up in the romance and, the smooching and whatever. I'll have to go check, when I edit my reaction, whatever. But the ring he gives her here is the ring of his mother. It's the ring of Malcurie Queens, not the ring of Malcurie Kings. So, yay. Our beloved Matt, calling out the thing that we've all been saying since season 1. But, well, okay, we haven't just been saying it since season 1. We've been saying it since the books. Since, like, those of us who looked at a map of Valon and went, Robert Jordan, you know, that's a vagina? You made a vagina? And then we all went, wait, and then he made a big cylindrical tower in the middle of the vagina. I see you, Robert Jordan. I see you. The show just took that same idea and gave it balls. A thought that I had when I was rewatching, in the books, a lot of Avienda's animosity towards Rand is her seeing in the rings that she is going to end up with Rand, end up being in love with him, and she doesn't want to, and part of her not wanting that is her feeling really, really guilty for betraying Elaine, because Elaine is her friend. What if they still do that, but it's not that she doesn't want to betray her friend Elaine, if she doesn't want to betray her girlfriend Elaine? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but it was just a thought I had, because they've, like, in the books, she doesn't want to betray Elaine. In the show, she might not want to betray Elaine, but for a different reason. Or they might not do it. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe she'll be cool with it. I don't know. Obvious, but I love that it looks like a web. In the books, we never actually see how a gray man is made, so this is not necessarily a change in canon, really, except for the idea, the fact that it is only Megiddian who can make gray men. But I do like the idea that they've tied Megiddian and gray men together, because that explains why we haven't seen them until now, because we need her in order to make them. We get some world building here, where she talks about what happens if you break your great oaths. You lose your souls. It's a true death. And then, if you're nice, you get to become a gray man. It's interesting because it's this world building. It shows that there's a cost to breaking your oaths. And it's not like in the books, you basically, unless you actually make an oath on the oath rod, you can just make an internal decision to not serve the dark. And unless the dark one comes after you, or other or dark friends come after you, I should say, you're fine. You probably will die. You probably will die because they will come after you, but you can just internally choose to not be a dark friend, and then you are not a dark friend. Whereas in the show, it does seem to imply that something magical ties your soul to the Dark One when you take your oaths. I am very curious to know what they're going to do here, because this is what do they say in the show? Jaiachim. They say Jaiachim. It's Jaiachim Gai'don. Oh god, I'm going to have to get used to that. Okay. He's a character from the books who is most definitely not a gray man. He isn't. So if they are introducing him, I am assuming he's going to do some of the same things his character does in the books, which would mean that he has to be able to do things that, from my understanding of what a gray man is capable of doing, he will not be able to do. Gray men are not able to do that. So I'm wondering, based on what we've seen so far in the first 3 episodes anyway, if the gray men are going to have abilities besides just being super, super stealth monsters. If they can turn their stealth on and off, if he will be able to interact with people normally, and then when he needs to be super stealth monster, he can just turn on his gray man thingy like that. I don't know. I'm curious. I love the look of Megiddian's weaves. Look at that. That looks like a web. It looks like she's shooting out webs. It's really cool. Even the weaves that she twists between her fingers at the beginning here of the shot, even those look like web weaves. It's the visual language in this show it's so cool. We take the face touching thing up to a new level. My god, seriously. What is it with the Forsaken and touching faces? She got her fingers in his mouth. And, okay, is it being implied here that this is why her fingers are black? I don't know, it is gross. Stop touching faces, Forsaken! Alright, there you have it. My thoughts, holy crap, my thoughts on Season 3, Episode 1. All of my book nerdy thoughts on Season 3, Episode 1 of The Wheel of Time. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because I have been recording for 1 hour and 52 minutes. We'll see how long this video is after I edit it. Okay, let me know though your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like my content and you want to support me, I also have a Patreon that is linked in the description below. To my patrons, as always, thank you so much for your continued support. Couldn't do this without you, so thank you. And with that, I am gonna end this here, so please like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.